Yo, 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 what's going on, y'all? It's your boy Skiiwalker the Jedi back at y'all with another one. We are back to back with these sit down with Skywalkers. Right now, we have the wonderful man. I'm so glad to be welcoming this person back to my platform. She has not been on in quite some time, but she's still been somebody who I've held very close in my thoughts and everything. And we're so happy to have her back. We got Rhea, the Glimmering Harpy, host of the Glimmercast. How are you doing, Rhea? How you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the invite to come on your show, hosting me on your platform again, Sky. I know it's been like maybe like at least a couple years, and in that time frame, you've just skyrocketed, pun intended. And yeah, I'm stoked that I was able to stay in touch with you on and off, and just yeah just be able to like watch from the yeah the audience. Yeah, I
Right.
was just be able to see your platform grow. So I'm really happy for you. And yeah, I'm just stoked
Yeah.
to be able to catch up.
Yes, Rhea definitely kept in touch on like Veterans Days and days like my birthdays and stuff like that and holidays. And it was always great tapping in with Rhea because she is super dope and somebody who is like one of the OG collaborators, right? From when I first kind of got on YouTube. And that's where I wanted to start at because that's when I got to know you. And yeah, it was just like it's such a special time. So you want to talk about how you got to YouTube and everything like that, and just uh kind of like your why on starting your channel.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I was always like watching YouTube, like pre-recorded, like movie reviews, movie talk, or video game reviews, and analysis, sort of like essay content on the platform. But as soon as the pandemic hit, I started to work from home, and that was like obviously like early 2020 when it impacted folks
Hmm.
on our end in the United States over in California. So I was fortunate enough to like be able to work from home, but
Yeah,
I was isolated as
California was
well.
definitely on lockdown. We were
Oh man.
definitely on lockdown, 100%.
No, dude, everyone was at home. Everyone had a podcast. That's where everyone was starting to blow up. So
Right.
yeah, that so I got recommended some comic book movie podcasts after, watching some more video essays on current topics for comic book movies, including Justice League. And
Mm.
I was completely out of the know of, any type of, movement that was like, grassroots, like release the Snyder cut, just this huge, community happening because yeah, on my corner of the internet, I wasn't aware. And as my lack of human connection happened during COVID, I or like during the height of the pandemic, I was like, you know what? Let me just go in and like start chatting with folks. And I'm into movies. I'm into comic book movies and all that stuff. And I kind of dipped my toe into entering the chat a little bit more, and that's where I started to like meet more friends and like network a little bit. And I would always type really long messages. I was always like
Absolutely.
maximizing
Yes.
my character count in
Yes.
the chat, and eventually I would get invited on for shows. And it was a little intimidating because I really did want to present my best self and just be authentic, be on camera, use my name, and just stand on business as far as like everything that I've
Yeah.
said in the chat, and then say it like I mean it on camera. So
Mhm.
that's where I wanted to approach it. And a lot of the people that I networked with and got to know and became friends with do the same, like same like presentation of their point of view on their channel, and happy to open the floor for other people to speak up too. And those are the folks that like I tended to keep in touch with the most, and build a connection with, like a real human connection with, because of like of how they run their channel and how they operated as people. So that was a big inspiration for me to kind of launch my own platform, especially after all the encouragement and hosting on other people's content, and just wanting to create my own platform to host other people as well, and like have topics and conversations about things that I'm also interested in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you definitely were known for cooking in the comments. I've actually seen it myself, on my platform and others. Yeah, you always had a great and unique perspective, and always provided a lot of insight as well with those comments. And yeah, like I remember one time, and this moment always stands out to me as like the definitive Rhea moment, right? Man, I was on a stream and I was going like, it was like 1 on 8, man. We was just going ham. And I was like, yo, I was cooking, talking about I think it was something to do with oh yeah, it was whether or not the Snyder cut was making money on streams overseas, right? And we was going crazy, and Rhea just jumped on and just so eloquently explained exactly how and why that film was making money off of streams overseas. And it was just such a dope moment for me personally. And that's when I always knew, I was like, yo, Ray is one of the real ones, yo. She'll jump in the fire and really uh, give her take, no matter what it is.
No, I appreciate that, and that's another thing too that I would always kind of fire off in the comments, and well, once I was able to come on someone's show and really explain how I felt and stand my ground on how I would approach a situation, especially when it's a discussion where I don't feel like it's fair, especially when it's so ratioed in favor of other folks, and I didn't agree with how the conversation was going. So in that case, since I want to see equity across the platform, anyone's platform, to have everyone be heard, and I don't like the idea of someone being dogpiled, or kind of caught off guard, or in their attempt to try and create a bridge, and eloquently explain where they're coming from in their perspective. And I felt like that was you. Like anytime you came on a shared platform, you just yeah, you approached the discussion not in a contentious, sort of like combative or antagonistic way. You genuinely wanted to calmly and eloquently present your perspective. And if it's so drastically different from someone else, I don't think that deserves um negativity or targeting, especially like from folks on the panel. And you can't really control what happens in the chat, unless like they're
Yeah.
popping off, and like you can hide comments and stuff, which I do because I'm often an admin on someone's channel. But
Mhm.
that's what really, like, I'm not okay with as a person, or like how folks treat each other, especially on shows that I spend a large amount of my time supporting and watching, and really fostering relationships with. Like, that's not something I want to support. So yeah, I just had to stand up for you to just be able to actually be heard, and not spoken over, misunderstood, all that stuff.
Yeah, that was super super dope. One of the things that I've noticed about you is you love to spread positivity and things like that. And it really shows through on your content and your streams. Be it whether it's film or gaming or whatever. Can you kind of speak to how that impacts you and kind of guides what you do content wise?
Yeah, so I would make content pretty regularly, maybe like a couple years ago, if not maybe like, yeah, towards the end of 2022. I was really really like just gung ho making content pretty much every day, like 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That was my window because
Mhm.
no one was online. Everyone was at work, needed something to
Right.
listen to in the background, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I
okay,
used to
I
put
got
you
you.
on at work, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's when like a lot of people would come through, especially for the podcasts. And obviously, like,
What a
a lot of
time, man. I'm like, I
uh,
just thought back to the what a time, yo. That was so dope. I just went back there.
dude, I know this. Like, I've been around, I guess, for like going on yeah, like 4 or 5 years. So y'all
Mhm.
have like really just, yeah, it's gonna be 5 years. So y'all are really just like a tent pole in my life. So even back then, I always knew that, like, I felt so much closer and so much like kindred, sort of like relationships and a lot more fostering of like, you know, true connections with people on the internet more so than I was even getting in real life. You know, even
Mhm.
with the pandemic, like, you know, I'm closer to a lot of people on this platform than I am like in real life. And that's the outlet that, you know, I spend a lot of energy and time dedicated to. And that's where I kind of decided to build some confidence and start doing video game streams, especially like with podcasts, where I kind of don't feel the most confident in speaking without using a lot of like um, air filling words like and I feel
Mhm.
like I stumble a little bit in my confidence to present an opinion. But when I have like a panel of other folks to kind of bounce off of and kind of, you know, direct my feedback around, that's where, you know, the content really feels elevated in my opinion. So I always enjoyed participating in collaboration content as opposed to just solo, where I'm doing my best to kind of come up with discussion points or even
Mhm.
just, you know, fill dead air on my own. I feel like the value in the podcast scene is where a lot of folks, especially folks who watch movie talk, that's the value for them, is to like hear those live conversations. And I agree,
A-
me too.
Absolutely, but we do need those gaming streams still, Red. Those are dope, yo. Like I used to love vibing out and just listening to you play some stuff. Sometimes badly, right? But it was
Oh
always
yeah.
great, right? It was always great.
No, I appreciate it too because I was big on like my my stream presentation with like some awesome intros and like some
Hmm.
awesome
The
you,
drops. Yeah.
yeah, the drops and yeah, it was fun. It was like a whole production, so I got to really like get into it. And yeah, yeah, I do want to hold myself accountable. I did feel like, you know, overwhelmed and kind of burnt out after a while. And yeah, my personal life, I don't want to
Burnout
blame.
definitely happens. It
Yeah.
definitely happens. It definitely happens.
No, it does, and it had nothing to do with anyone else. It was just me feeling overwhelmed and allowing personal life and career life just, you know, overtake my passion for collaborating with my friends on my own platform. So took a step back, and it's been like, you know, a few years since I've actually dedicated some streams consistently. I've experimented with edited content, which is also really nice. I appreciate it, being able to get more into editing and video effects as well. So I enjoy doing that too. The problem is I have like, so I'm kind of a perfectionist, so if something
Hmm.
doesn't come out the way that I want, then I get discouraged. So it's that
Hmm.
self-consciousness too that I really struggle with. So it's all something that I'm 100% accountable for. It's no one
Yeah.
else's like no one else is holding me back but myself, but I'm glad that I could still collab with other people on their channels.
Yeah. And we definitely gonna help bring Rhea out her shell. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get her back out on out on these YouTube streets and having these conversations, and it's gonna be dope, right? You speak a lot about like kindred spirits and just this thing almost being like another family for you, right? Can you talk about what it's been like for you kind of being able to foster your own community and really be able to just find like-minded people and really lock in and be able to, feel that camaraderie and things of that sort?
Yeah, so outside of just, you know, the internal networking of a lot of folks in the movie talk space who watch live streams,
Hmm.
I was also fortunate enough to be able to get to know other content creators who not just do movie talk but also video game talk.
Hmm.
So transitioning into more um, environments, I guess, or communities where folks also invited me to join their panels and get my perspective on different movie talk as well as like recent video game news. That's where I started to have more folks like either in the chat or interacting with me on YouTube and X, Twitter X
Hmm.
at the and it just became like, you know, just another growing overlapping bubble of folks, and that bubble started to grow on its own and not just overlap with the movie talk folks. I actually got to learn more and integrate and interact with directly like video game content creators, which is like really awesome because I was getting my movie talk needs nourished, over
Hmm.
here, like very like, proficiently. Sometimes I felt like I would need a break because I didn't really have an outlet to talk about like recent news, whether it be like with video game awards or new
Mm,
consoles dropping, new
absolutely.
games. Yeah, and I'm big
Absolutely.
into to indie games, retro games, a lot of like Nintendo coverage. That's what I'm
Hmm.
really big into. So I started to learn more
You
about
hype for
folks who
that Switch
cover.
too?
Yes, yes. Oh man, that's a day
Okay,
one. That's a day one comp for me.
okay.
Yeah, I
Right.
went and yeah, the whole like speculative discussion space. That's what really I think is like the core of a lot of the content that I enjoy, and that's what like keeps me in these like overlapping circles of just kind of going through different uh content creators, content just to like get their discussion on rumors and speculating on the market, as whether it be like video games or film and TV, and just like whatever little bits of information that we get in the press, and just collaborating on discussing it, and yeah, just making uh some educated insight from other folks. That's what I really love. So yeah, where that was happening like with video game streams and content creators, definitely like really fortunate there. But yeah, my core is my movie talk folks, like that's
Right.
who's been holding me down for 5 years, so I'll always be here, like
Right.
primarily.
Hey, speaking of the core movie talk, folks, we got to talk about something, Rhea. You and I actually got the chance to meet one time, right? At Full Circle, the Zack Snyder event to end all Zack Snyder events. One, it was wonderful being able to meet you, first of all, and second, um, can you kind of talk about that? Because like, uh, I rarely get people on the platform that were actually there for that, and I love kind of getting you guys's perspectives on that monumental weekend, because I felt like it was an amazing 10 out of 10 weekend, but who knows how everybody else felt. So can you kind of speak to that weekend and just how dope that was, kind of seeing everybody there and just having that whole experience?
Yeah, I will definitely say that I did not expect to be one of the lucky few to be able to get a ticket, especially a 3-day ticket.
Right.
The second that it dropped, because I heard that there were like thousands of people who were like running into like server
Waiting.
issues and
They were
loading issues
waiting.
and stuff.
Yes.
Yes, and I was like excited when I got the ticket, and I was also intimidated at the same time because yeah, I learned that there were so many other people who would have loved to be able to go, but yeah, that was like something I tried not to like have this feeling of like, oh, I don't deserve this, or like, oh, why, like I wish like other folks would have been able to go. I wish there was more tickets, blah blah blah. Those things
Nah,
I
I
couldn't
had
really
to be
control.
there. I had to be there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had to be there. I'm like, hey, I ain't feeling sorry. Hey, I wish y'all could have been. I wish we all could have been there. Right, but just not instead of me.
No, yeah. See, OGs like yourself and other folks who have been here for years and years and years, like, like pre even like, 2016, like you've been here lifelong and you saw the whole, saga occur in real time, and you have active memories of how that went down. For me, I've always felt like, an outsider looking in some ways, because I came on to the platform and started integrating with y'all's communities after the movie was already released. It was the year that it was supposed to come out, or like the following year that it was supposed to come out. And yeah, I was just basically riding the hype train with y'all. So yeah, there was like, some residual, sort of like imposter syndrome where yeah, I didn't
Mm.
feel like, I,
You
could
guys are
could really.
important too, Rhea. Everybody that got on after it came out is definitely important too, because it showed that hey, this thing could win people over, even people that weren't necessarily um, too like tapped in with what was going on that entire time, right?
No, definitely. And yeah, like I said, I approach my own like sort of like discussions and analysis of different movie talk and movie situations and speculation in a very just like I try to be objective, and then I also tend to like lean more towards yes, like what is fair, what is going to provide equity and like an ability of a storyteller to be able to execute the idea to the fullest of its um like to their vision, like the most
Hmm.
complete vision that they can, with the support of either like the studio system or their creative team behind them, their actors. And there were just so many pieces that were in that that were just going well. There was so much greatness happening that unfortunately had run into a lot of speed bumps. Is not a powerful enough word to say that, but
Right.
but yes, there were just a lot of wrong. There was definitely like a lot of wrongdoing, and that was something that I really connected to as I started to learn more and more about the background of the situation around the
Mhm.
production of the first three films in Zack Snyder's film arc for the DCEU.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's just something that I really really connected to. Like I saw the passion and commitment in other folks and presenting their feedback and discussions around all the latest news that we got around the film, whether it was like leading up to it and after. Definitely like the aftermath was where like the
Hmm.
real sort of the really like powerful discussions and really just like analytical like receipts were coming out, and we dug
Hmm.
into it with y'all, and I was learning, and
Yeah.
I did my best to keep up and participate with y'all too, with like my own sort of like perspective on things. So anyway, going into like
And you did a
full
great job.
circle,
You did a great job. Yeah.
I felt like, okay, so I have this background of knowledge from other folks and also like objectively from news reports that I was able to read on my own of like the situation that happened. And also like when it boils down to it, I was a big fan of the first three films as well, especially
Mhm.
Man of Steel. Like that's what I love.
Mm.
That's just kind of like it's like a 100% like
Greatest
everyone
superhero
loves.
origin story ever. Yeah.
Yeah, like everyone's like you could disagree on everything, but Man of Steel, everyone's just like no, yeah, like that's the one, bro. so
Yeah.
so yes, like I love that, like there's always common ground there that I always try to find, and full circle. That's what it is. It's just like folks really just like not not focusing on what divides their
Hmm.
perspectives on the same topic. It just understand, just like seeing what boils down to like why the reason why everyone is there, because they believe in
Yeah.
artistic vision and freedom of speech, and just being able to have to be supportive of individual creativity. And yeah, that's that's what it again what it boils down to for me. I love that
Yeah.
phrase, but like
Hmm.
that's where we all agree, so that's what I wanted to elevate when I was there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, ZSJL and IMAX, Rhea. I mean, you're one of the few people that actually got to see that movie in its full, unadulterated glory. Can you talk about that experience for just a moment
Yeah,
before we,
definitely.
because that was that. Look, I can try to explain. I've been trying to explain it to people. I'm like, you guys don't understand. Like, you couldn't even see the whole screen if you were just looking straight. Like, you had to like, you had to look in all the different corners to be able to watch them. It was insane. But can you talk about that though, Rhea?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was sitting right behind you in your row, and
Yes.
yeah, so I caught
No,
all
right
the
in front.
reaction. Oh,
Yes, right
yes.
in front. Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I caught all the, reactions, all like, the visceral sort of like, yes, people were like physically expressing their excitement about the film in real time. And for me, you couldn't have said it better. Like, you had to basically, like, you couldn't capture the whole film in all its glory on that huge IMAX screen at Universal Studios AMC and in Hollywood. It was just the amount of detail that you were
Oh
able
my
to
god.
there's not enough clarity in the human eye to be able to no, like
Yeah.
there's no way, there's just so much
Yeah, Zach cooked because like there's so much more to you I never noticed until I saw it on that screen projected out in that manner.
like the fact that it was like a streaming exclusive, or it largely is just like it's a complete disservice to that
Absolutely.
film. Yeah. And like just being there, experiencing it with so many different folks who just have driven this moment to see this film in all its glory, or in a large majority of its glory, finished, or like in a way that is as true to the artist's vision as it was able to be presented on screen. And that was just an uplifting moment that I felt alongside the other people who were all there, and their enthusiasm, their energy, just like that sense of like community, and like, yes, we did it, this is what it was all for. Like, I felt that all around me, and yeah, like that just sort of elevated the experience of watching it together with y'all for me.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. My second favorite, or my second most definitive Rhea moment, right, is actually when you were describing the scene in which I asked Zack Snyder that question after the screening. I don't think that I've ever told you this, but yo, the way you described that for me, Rhea, it was like so crazy, and I was like showing my family. I was like, yo, look at this. Can you kind of describe what that was like for you, and just for like the overall fan base, and what it was like being there in that moment, getting a definitive answer from Zack Snyder on whether or not he wanted to kind of continue with his universe?
Yeah. I've 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 always admired how just direct and just authentic you've always been in your movie talk, and even just as a person. Like, you're literally the same in person as you are on your show, and I've always
Thank you for
really,
saying that, because
yeah, just like
I try.
authenticity, like, across the board. I've literally met you and I've known you for years, and I can confirm. So, the reason I say that is because, yeah, I truly believed that you did something so courageous and so bold, and something that no one else in that entire room would have ever done, ever. And I needed people to understand that, and I felt that that was not being heard, in the words that you were saying, nor like in how the various clips that were made were being presented. And it was really infuriating for me. And like I said, I don't like when I feel like people are being dogpiled or misunderstood and just completely othered, when their intention of how they feel and how they're presenting, how they love content or love this form of media, is being villainized. And I absolutely was, upset about it. That's where I was using my subjective feelings of like seeing that, this is wrong. Like, y'all need to, actually read the intention of why this question was asked, and understand that it is actually an important topic, that this platform that we were at Full Circle, in that audience, that was the perfect scenario to have that burning question that everyone in the room knows that they had in their brain, but was too, like, they did not, for whatever reason, stand up or ask that direct question to the creative, to the artists themselves. So that was just something that, again, very admirable, and just something that I don't think I definitely would not have been able to do it. So the fact that you did it just in a room full of hundreds of people, and in front of, like, some of the biggest actors in the industry,
You
and like
oh,
just
Ben
writers,
Affleck was there, like Chris Terrio was
literally,
there, everybody was there.
it was just
Crazy. Ray
like,
Fisher.
yes, yeah, it was just like, you you did it, and you stood on it like 10 toes down. And I just was like, it was largely misunderstood as far as like the message behind your actions, and how important it was that you did what you did. So that's why I needed to express the objective facts of what you did in a subjective way, not just in a way that is very defensive, but also like objectively. Skiiwalker did something that everyone in the room, or there were like thousands and thousands of people who had that burning question, that never, they never got the chance to ask. And he took that opportunity, and he, presented it in a way that a lot of us would never dare to do. Like, and that's the point that I wanted to make when I was like describing your intention of being on that like large, platform with so many eyes watching you. So yeah, like, objectively that takes a lot of courage, bravery, and yeah, your authentic, direct question in that format. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. So I commend you always for doing that.
Man, I want to see Red saved my life twice, y'all. Y'all don't know. Like she literally saved my life twice. In those 2 months, I was like, yo, Red is a rider. So I'm like, it's for real dog piling going on. And she was one of the only ones that came to my defense. You know what I mean? And really
Yeah.
told the truth.
I definitely feel like it's important, like outside of
It
just
was the
your own
truth
out.
though, both times. So I do want to say that. Like you didn't lie, right?
No, absolutely. There've definitely been opportunities to really have you be someone on other platforms that could have these authentic and direct conversations with that that were definitely skewed not in your favor. And I've never endorsed that. I never, supported that. I do try to foster meaningful friendships and connections with so many different people, and I try to
Absolutely.
have my own connections with them. But in the instances where I see that there is a lack of being fair and just, being offering like decent human, like, interactions and willingness to like build bonds, like there was not much uh being given to you as much as you were extending to other people, and that's what I wanted to acknowledge as well.
Man, thanks, Red. Thank you, Red. Look, so we can move on from full circle because that was an amazing experience. But I do want to ask you about some more things. Um, Movies and film today, right? I know that there's a lot of talk surrounding like what's wrong with movies nowadays and things of that nature. I kind of like talking about stuff that I'm enjoying, right? What have you been enjoying that has been coming out recently, be it TV shows or films?
Okay, so in terms of things I've enjoyed, the horror scene has definitely,
Yeah.
just been popping off, and I do try to have those discussions with other people who are into horror movies as well. Some of it is like few and far between. There might be folks who watch those movies but don't actively, discuss them because they're not like part of like the super high profile comic book movie scene or other,
Hmm.
high profile movie studio interactions and news that comes out, which is fine. But yeah, that is definitely up there for me. I went and saw the monkey from the
How
director
was that?
of Longlegs. So that was, I'm not gonna lie, it was a weird one, and there was a lot of gore in it as
Mm.
well. So not to the level of
It looked
Terrifier.
gory. It looked
Yeah,
gory from
yeah.
the trailer.
No, no, definitely. And the monkey itself, the little wind up monkey, was definitely nightmare fuel. So if that's unnerving to you in the trailer, you probably aren't ready for what's to come in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So when it comes to like horror movies, I feel like there's a lot more room to really be, introspective of how, you know, humans operate, and some
Mhm.
of some of like, the best intentions of folks in these movies are often, have like very selfish, insidious, reasoning behind them. And for me to be able to follow a single character's, journey through one film, like Smile 2, for example, like, oh my gosh, it's
Mm.
so much better than Smile 1. And yeah, just watching the descent of certain characters and how their best intentions often, go downhill,
Mhm.
and as good as they want it to have things end for themselves and others, it leads to, well, you have to go through all these different
Mhm.
trials and tribulations to understand the moral wrongdoing that you've done in order to have, like, these good intentions, like uh, turn out the way that you want. So that
Mhm.
was definitely the a running theme in
Mhm.
Long Legs, The Monkey, Smile 2. And I remember I was on a panel with you on my podcast to talk about X. That was another horror movie that was part of a trilogy. And oh
I
yeah, we
remember
had
that
a really
discussion that we had.
yeah we had a really like interesting panel discussion. And yeah, I
I
won't say
definitely
that we
had
all
some
agreed.
different thoughts on X. I definitely
Yes.
had a different perspective on X, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate it though, because you didn't come at it like, trying to tell someone else that they were wrong. You're just like, this is just, how I interpret it, and this is just how I felt about it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was watching Long Legs recently, but I was like super tired and I ended up falling asleep. But it was pretty good while I was watching it. Um, so it wasn't any fault of the film. And then I also, well, I guess that I can say it now. I saw Smile 2 a little bit early before it came out at like one of those screenings, but I'm pretty sure they was like close to the final version because it was like 2 3 weeks before it came out. And yo, it was actually pretty good. And I hadn't even seen the first one. um
you don't have to.
I No, yeah, I just kind of figured that the guy that was at the beginning had got it at the end of the last movie.
That's what I
I
thought
think,
too.
yeah, that was the only thing that I guess you would have had to have seen from the first film, from my understanding. But yeah, that was a pretty good one too, and I definitely agree that a lot of times the horror movie genre is actually able to, in my opinion, kind of push boundaries in terms of themes that they explore, right? In terms of human connections and things like that. And it's just a lot easier to kind of wrap that in a horror bowl than it seems to be with a lot of other genres nowadays.
No, totally. And then like another recent film that I watched, The Substance with Demi Moore. That
I've
one
been
is
hearing that that's good.
That's another gory one. So there's like there's very
Rhea
not
likes gore, people. I think we're starting to notice a trend here.
it's weird because underneath the gore there's a very like profound discussion to be had about human nature. It's like,
Mhm.
and a lot of it is driven by insecurity, lack of confidence in oneself, struggling in personal life, just like dissatisfaction with life of itself, and then seeing an opportunity to improve one's state in life, but also not realizing, hey, this is like kind of a it's going to lead to bad results. And sometimes the person doesn't even like regard the bad results. They just want the solution right away, and then that leads to, yes, a downfall of oftentimes the people around them, and then eventually the main character themselves. So yeah, that's just something that we're like seeing human behavior,
Mhm.
just kind of like go through just like this arc of yeah, positive intent, like I mentioned, and having it kind of uh just de-escalate into something that they never intended on having done, especially to the people around them and themselves. So I think that's what I like the most, the human condition sort of like uh, analysis part of the horror movies. Oh, and the gore
Mhm.
too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Hey, I'm like, just be honest, Ray. She loves the gore, right? What would you say has been your favorite horror movie that has been released in like the past 4 or 5 years?
Oh, Pearl. So that was the prequel to X. Yeah, I'm a big fan of
Wait,
the X trilogy.
it went X, Pearl, and then Triple X, right?
Um, so Maxine, yeah, Maxine is the triple X.
Maxine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, with
Oh,
three X's. So
okay.
yeah, you're right. And Pearl, oh my gosh, that is one of the most
Pearl's the only
underrated.
one I haven't seen too, because I watched Maxine when I was in the hospital recently. Yeah, and yeah. So, uh, tell me about Pearl.
Oh my gosh, Pearl is like just the when I talk about how I love gore, but I also like when there's introspection of a character and what they go through to improve their state in life, but also to the detriment of the people around them.
Mm.
So yeah, that was like a big thing with Pearl as well. She So if you watched X, I know you watched X. There's a very very older woman
Mm,
who aspired to be a star, a performer, a dancer back in like the 1920s or so. So Pearl is basically set in that time frame where this older woman in X was a lot younger, and she had her aspirations, and it was during I think it was World War I, or maybe like during like this flu outbreak. Yeah, so there was like a war happening, and then there was also like
mm,
a large flu happening, and it was timely because we were still kind of in the midst of the pandemic as well. So
mm,
so just to like kind of set the stage, like yeah, there was a lot of similar stuff happening in real time. But yeah, Pearl herself, yeah, she was a lot like Maxine in X. They not only are they played by the same actress, but they both have
mhm.
aspirations to,
Mia Goth, right?
yeah, Mia Goth, and yeah, just seeing how they were just so determined by any means necessary to reach that point of stardom, whether it be it's just simply to be known and celebrated for one's existence. That's all they wanted, was like that recognition. And yeah, with Pearl, and she also had very, very deep seated, what is it like, uh, her psychosis, sort of like embedded resentment and inability to really see objectively the impact of her actions on other people, because she was
Mhm,
so driven by just this thought of her own success and her own hopes and dreams. She didn't she was completely unaware and like honestly like sociopathic, as far as like not being able to care or genuinely connect with other people outside of what they either take away from her or what they can do for her. So that was
mm.
like a big thing, running theme in Pearl. And yeah, because of that, her murderous tendencies tended to go without any remorse. They would elevate like her growing resentment and anger, and then as she started to execute literally like more murders, as the movie progressed, yeah, like she became more and more unhinged and just driven and focused on that one objective to try and become a star. So yeah, without spoiling too much, that is why I loved Pearl, because yeah, it's another human condition introspective piece that is also very entertaining, very intense with the amount of gore being presented, and there is like some intention behind it, because it's we see the rising tension within the main character and how they descend into further into madness.
Yeah. Oh my God, I agree wholeheartedly. That a lot of times when you have these kind of themes that are being explored, it can be very, very interesting, right? It kind of watch these things play out and how these threads are kind of connected and pull on one another, right? Um, I wanted to ask you in terms of like the theater going experience, right? Is that a big thing for you? Are you more of like hey, it doesn't really matter if I watch it on my phone versus in the theater? Like, where do you kind of stand on that? Because the theater experience seems to be something that's in kind of question these days. But what's your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, I love going to the theater. It's just something that for me feels like an event. I need to plan my whole day around that. And I have to
Mm,
kind of like build up that clarity of like, okay, it's movie day. That's all I want to, focus on. I can't, be running errands and then go and watch a movie, because I'm not going to be plugged in to really absorb the content. So I dedicate a whole day to movie day,
mm,
and I try not to do too much, too much stuff around it, so I can, be stoked to go and see it. So the big movies, I do try to make time to go see in if not IMAX, then maybe like laser in at
mm,
AMC. AMC is like one of my favorite. It's definitely like my favorite theater for sure. I know there's like
mm.
no there's a lot of like contention around them and some of the decisions they've been making, but because they're the biggest. But yeah, for me, I love watching my movies there, especially IMAX. And when it comes to like the bigger movies, like I mentioned, like a lot of the comic book movies, I try to catch in the best format, which is the theater
Mm,
experience, so that I
mhm,
can have the best. conversations with my friends and the community about what I felt about it. And
Mm-hmm.
let me see. So like a lot of the major comic book movies, I went to see Captain America: Brave New World in theaters with friends,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I do feel like I I did gain more value from watching it in a theater format and along with my friends, and it made it a richer experience for me. But yeah, like that's not to say that the theater experience necessarily elevates every film. It's just my preferred platform to go and watch these films. So yeah, like I do make
Mm-hmm.
time for movies like that, and then like some of the non comic book movies too. Like I said, like you know some horror movies, um, and some more like I guess like non horror, non comic book movies. Like I let me
Did you see
see.
Dune 2 when it was in theaters?
Oh, Dune 2? No,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so like I'm gonna lose my movie talk card because I haven't watched
Uh-oh.
Dune 1 or
I'm
Dune
I'm
2.
ready to snatch. It's snatched, right? No, I'm just joking.
No, I know it's ripped up. Oh man. I know, it's just like I don't know, I just didn't make time for it because it like I said, you have to dedicate a day
Yeah.
to that even
Dune is
like
a
one film.
masterpiece.
You can't just say like,
I
"Oh yeah, let me turn on Dune in like the middle of the afternoon." Like, no.
no, I agree. Yeah, I will say this, and I caught a lot of flack for this. I prefer Dune 1 a little bit to Dune 2. But that's only because Dune 1 was like a 10 out of 10 and Dune 2 was like a 9. You
That's still
know?
pretty high.
Yeah, and like people try to act like I was slighting Dune 2, and I was like, I'm not slighting it. They're both fantastic movies. I just liked one a little bit more. I felt like one was pretty much perfect, and two was a little bit less than perfect, right? But still a masterpiece in and of itself. And the theater experience definitely elevated it. And I do agree that it doesn't really elevate every movie. I went to go see Captain America: Brave New World too, and what I've noticed is, even for these MCU movies, which I haven't like, I've been critical of, especially a lot of their recent releases, right, on Disney Plus or what have you.
Oh my
But I
gosh.
went
I even
to.
got the popcorn bucket. Dude, I was like, okay,
You
let me just
thought you was the only one, Rhea?
okay, so like yeah, I was like this shit's going to be rare one day. So let me just cop one while it's here.
Hey, see, Rhea was with me,
Yeah, no,
right?
that's the best one for sure. But anyway,
No,
continue,
100%.
sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, I went to a fan event. The tickets were like $65. So like, I be trying to tell people like I even pay more than the average person to go see these movies, right? Especially these big comic book movies and stuff, because these fan events can be pretty expensive. But I had a great time watching Captain America, man, and it really made me realize that seeing these movies in a theater and having that experience around a whole bunch of fans, it can really make something fun, yo. And I enjoyed the movie even without that. um you know and just one of the things that I think that is very important, but also something that you kind of try to always express, is that everybody doesn't have to have the same opinion on all of these films or all of these different things. And when I saw a lot of the discourse surrounding Captain America, it tripped me out because I did not experience that. Like, I enjoyed that movie quite a bit, and so also while supporting theaters, I also think that a lot of the general audience members, because even people in my real life that went to go see that movie, they typically enjoyed it. Like everybody from my job is that went to go see it liked it. The person that I actually know that gave it the lowest score was my mom, who said it was a 6 or a 6.5. Everybody else pretty much enjoyed it and said it was one of their better recent releases. So yeah, not only checking these movies out in theaters, but I also think just going with your gut, and hey, if you look at a trailer and something looks cool to you, go watch it. If it doesn't, then you don't have to. Like, it pretty much just boils down to that.
No, totally. And what I liked about the conversation around Cap 4 was because it was, so like, divisive. I felt like that was where the more meaningful discussions happened because when something like a film is just, it gets like nines and tens across the board, there's not much, critical discussion happening there. There's more
Mm,
just like, oh, did you like everyone like this scene and this scene and this actor? But with Cap 4, I was, there was a lot of, interesting discussions around Sam Wilson, the character, and how, he was kind of like the reluctant hero of the film, at least like in my opinion. And
yeah.
honestly, I didn't feel like, the movie was his movie at a lot of times, and like he kind of got overshadowed by a lot of other people. So in talking about it with folks who actually really enjoyed it, they do call out that like, yeah, this is kind of like an encased sort of story to help further develop Sam's character and him rising to the occasion with the Captain America mantle and showing how worthy he is, and how strong his values are and how he uplifts or how he's building on those that Steve Rogers had. So I tried to, pull the value of popcorn films, whether it be like comic book movies or
Yeah.
horror films, and I tried to find the actual like story value as far as like the message that they're trying to send. And yeah, like that's what I think like with Cap 4, like yes, it's or no, it's not a perfect movie, but yes, it is worth talking about. And it did, make some people, satisfied or happy or like maybe like being more critical of it than they would other films. But yeah, I think that's what makes a memorable worthwhile movie is when it does, provoke more discussion around it.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. See, Ray be cooking on these movie topics, right? But you're not only well versed in the movie world, you also like to talk about gaming a lot. Um, Man, can you talk about the love that you have for, let's say, like just retro gaming, modern gaming? Like, what are you kind of into? And let the people know just where your head is those issues.
Yeah, so with gaming, I'm sure this isn't an uncommon story, but I didn't get a whole lot of access to a lot of the games that were coming out in the 90s and the 2000s. I was in a single mother household, single income, and whatever video games I did get, it was, an annual event for,
Yeah.
and a lot of them were like the more major titles. And I was definitely like a PlayStation kid and Nintendo kid, so those were the
PlayStation One.
consoles. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Missed out on
Hey.
PS3 though.
Okay.
Yeah, once it got into like PS3 and PS4, I was in college, so I couldn't really afford. It was like high
Mm,
school and then college. So
mm,
unfortunately, my time was like dedicated elsewhere. But also with like very limited access to funds to be able to
mm,
buy a lot of the newer games coming out and being able to follow them actively, like because of lack of time. So as I became an adult into like my later 20s, early 30s, I was able to finance these
right.
interests. I was able to actually afford to go back to all these games that I didn't have access to. And like I mentioned, what I was originally like, watching on YouTube was a lot of like video game reviews, video analysis, and or video game analysis, and just like history too. Like
Hmm.
Angry Video Game Nerd is pretty much like my favorite YouTuber
Hmm.
because he broke the mold as far as like what kind of content I look for, just like thought provoking, entertaining, and something that keeps the conversation going even when it comes to older films. And just uh the need to like preserve not just the memory but also the physical content itself. Like I'm a big physical media head, and that's a big reason
Yeah.
why I'm big into retro games, because there was such a big significance on like with cartridges, or even just
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, like those
The
things
books
are
that used to come with the game used to be thick, and you
yeah.
used to read through the manual, and it would come with all these like little special little trinkets and all that stuff, right?
That's the thing. It
Yeah.
felt special. It felt like a gift for a lot of young folks, even for myself. So me being able to kind of like fulfill my childhood in a little bit. I
Hmm.
think a lot of us like once we become adults, we tend to go back and try and like buy all the special figures and movies and go to like different like events and things like that we were never able to go to as kids, and that was a big reason why I started to focus more on more of the more retro inspired, actually retro indie stuff, because those were the games that I wish I could have played as a kid that I didn't have
Mm.
access to.
I loved games growing up. I was pretty much like almost the opposite, where as long as I could get good grades, I could pretty much get whatever console that I wanted. So I had like then yeah, from Nintendo to Super Nintendo to 64 to PlayStation to I even had stuff like the 3DO, which
Oh
not a lot of people
dang!
had. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
man.
I had a PC when people wasn't really having computers in their house. Yeah, like all that stuff. All that stuff. As long as I got good grades, it was all available to me, and so I was always studying hard. And hey, keep your head in them books, kids. Right.
Dude, like that's the only way I was able to be able to acquire like video games and like new
Yeah.
consoles was like once I started to be able to actually like work. I would take my little like $10 an hour or $8 an hour and just be able to like bank, like just like save it up, and every couple weeks I'd be like, okay, I have a few hundred
Right.
dollars, let me just like buy a new game or so.
Yeah, I remember when I first started buying games, and they were like, yeah, they were 49.99, and you go and buy them. It was like 54.11. I think it was that they used to come out to over here in California, and yeah, man, I've been heavy into gaming for a long time. Yeah, once Xbox came out, I was more so like an Xbox kind of guy, but I definitely still follow Nintendo and everything that they're doing. Because at first it used to frustrate. It would kind of frustrate me because I was like, man, why won't Nintendo just like make like a modern, like a console, something beefy? And then it dawned on me. I was like, no, because they are in their own lane and they're the only ones that are doing what they do. And if they did what everybody else was doing, then they wouldn't be as special. And so, yeah, I rock with Nintendo. I rock with all of the video game consoles. I rock with gaming as a whole. I think it's like one of the greatest hobbies. And yeah, it has definitely played a major part in my life, and that's dope that you I mean that all of this stuff was kind of part of your journey as well.
No, definitely. And like to your point, even like through the 90s and 2000s, games were like 49, 59, 79. The
Yeah.
consoles themselves, like, the PS1 and like PS2 and those and GameCube, I think even like those would be a
I
little
had
on the
GameCube too. Yep.
yeah, or even like Xbox, it would be like, oh, 129.99, which is unheard
Yeah.
of for a console these days. But then the games themselves, would be the premium. So
Hmm. Yo,
yeah.
I don't know if you know, I think it was like back in the day, I think 3DO came out at like $600 or $700. Even back then it was like $600 or $700. And yeah, my dad dropped a bag on that. And yeah, that was a dope console. I don't know if you had one, but what was so dope about those was that there was like an unlimited controller plug-in ability, because the actual console itself only had like one port, but then each controller had a port in the bottom. So you would hook the other controllers up to the first player or the second player would hook up to the first player, and then the third player would hook up to the second player, and like so on and so forth. And you could just hook up, seven remotes to your 3DO like that. And yeah, they had a lot of sleeper games, man. And you're absolutely right. This whole physical media thing is very important, because without that, a lot of these old things, you're kind of just at the mercy of these companies. And one one example of that is that I was a really big Dreamcast guy too. That was one of the best consoles ever, by the way. Sega Dreamcast was amazing, amazing lineup, right? And they had this game called Power Stone 2, which is like one of the
Yeah,
best 3D arena fighters ever.
dude, people love that game.
I always loved it way more than Super Smash Brothers. I thought it was like the greatest multiplayer, like fighting game, like kind of party game of all time. And ever since and it was only on Dreamcast, and then it got a collection put out on the PSP, right? But that was it. And that came out in like 2006 was the PSP version, which came out like, several years after the actual game came out. But yeah, we never had a way of playing that game. You had to have a Dreamcast. But now we're getting the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, and Power Stone 2 is on there. I've never pre-ordered a game earlier. Just so you guys know, I've never in my life pre-ordered a game earlier, but I put my $40 down, like, because the physical copy of that game is like 80-90 bucks, like right now. So I was like, this is a steal. But yeah, without that physical media, you're kind of at the mercy of these companies.
No, definitely. You said it very, eloquently and like on point. That's a big reason why I get so excited to be able to pick up games in real life and have that connection with them. I do love I order games online all the time, especially if it's a pre-order. I need that, day one. So there's that, and then there's also like that feeling of like finding it out in the wild and just like
Yeah.
being able to hold it in your hand immediately and just being stoked to play it.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh
so
yeah.
there's
All of the mid to late 30-year-olds are lit because of Power Stone 2 coming out. Like we're all no, I've been having phone calls with all the boys. We all coming out of retirement. They all like, everybody talking about, I'm about to pick my character. I'm about to have Wang Tang. I'm about to have, it's like it's totally bringing out. And actually, I'll drop this exclusive here. I'm actually going to be getting another PC pretty soon, and I'm going to stream games for when Power Stone 2 comes out, because the lobbies and the party chat with the homies are going to be crazy. And yeah, gaming is just amazing. And I'm sorry, I just had to kind of make that known. So
No, dude, congrats. Yeah, I didn't know anything about PCs until I got mine. I think it was like in 2021. It was a birthday gift that I got for myself.
yeah.
And yeah, I was like, I need like a decent graphics card to be able to render my streams in like high quality. And I was dual
Mm-hmm.
streaming at the time too, on Twitch and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of like quality things that I wanted to put into my desktop to be able to have the type of content that I would want to watch and that I can be
Mm-hmm.
proud of. So yeah, and then also it's pretty cool because it can also play PS2, Xbox, PS3, and Xbox 360 games. There are some that
Mm-hmm.
play better than others on emulator, but because it's just like an ongoing project for a lot of independent developers working for free basically on
Mm-hmm.
this. So also PS4 is in development as far as like emulation too. So as much as we were talking about preservation of games, especially like if they go offline on a streaming platform, or if
Yeah.
the physical media is sold out, like what are you going to do then? Like you left me no choice, I have to access it
Right.
online.
Yeah.
So so that's where my personal opinion is. It's like if you can't find it anywhere else, like you're gonna find it somewhere.
Yeah. Yo, man, I would have bootlegged Power Stone 2, man. You have no idea how many hours I've spent on that game. And I'm sorry that I keep bringing it up, but it just brings
No,
a
it's a
smile to my face. That game is amazing. And you guys, when I saw that trailer and I saw that Power Stone 2, I was like, what?
no, dude.
I was mind
I have to
blown.
double check if I don't think I pre-ordered that. So thank you for the reminder. I'm just like I got
Right.
220s. I can put that
Oh,
down.
yeah. Yeah. Hey, we gotta get Rhea in the Power Stone 2 lobbies, y'all. It
No,
has to
dude.
happen. It has to happen. It
Yeah,
has
I'll
to happen.
definitely. So like now that like I'm like more in tune, like what's going on in the discussions and stuff, I'm gonna like be alert when like the Power Stone 2 parties
Oh yeah.
happen.
No, we've been counting down I'm like May 15th, 9 p.m. Pacific
Oh
is
man.
when it comes out. Like it's on the Xbox store like that. And I've been talking smack to all the homies, like, bro, at 9 o'clock it's going down, boy.
Oh, you're like you
Man.
yeah, no, you're gonna be a whole problem in those lobbies.
Oh yeah, oh no, oh no, it's gonna be crazy. But no, like we literally used to spend like no joke, we would be up playing that game from like 8, 9 p.m. to like 5 in the morning. Just 4-player matches back to back to back to back to back, just running it all night, laughing, having a great time. And those are definitely some core memories. So that is gonna be super dope. Um, when you look at the greater landscape of gaming right now, right? Like how are you kind of feeling about things? What's your thoughts on what's going on just in like the larger landscape?
Yeah, I think I'm the most critical of Microsoft, although they give the most access to their backlog, and they are cross-platform. They are very much like down to make their games available on PC, Steam, and Xbox themselves. I feel like there is more focus on acquiring smaller studios and developers of these legacy IPs, as opposed to being able to resurrect those IPs and make new content from them. So they kind of just sit on IPs without like making new content for them. And yeah, like that really is concerning for me, because they are we're at they have these games at their disposal, and it's like yeah, so like whenever we get additional content for them, or however they want to present it, they like it's up to them. It's not the developer being able to release a game and we just enjoy it in and of itself. It's now like, okay, yeah, it's owned by another third party entity now, and whether they want to continue to host the servers after a certain time. That's the biggest thing too. Like servers, when they go offline after like maybe like a few years, or even like a couple years, if not like right after launch, if it's not good, if it's not a good launch, then yeah, you're out of luck. Like you have to play offline if you are even able to play offline. So that's another reason too that I like get really upset at not just Microsoft. Sony also does this too, where there's a very limited lifespan, and so only so much access to games as a whole, that even if you pay for like cloud services or game library access with either of them, it's at their disposal as far as like what you can get access to. So even legitimately, well, I guess in a way to support the platform of which that those games are hosted on, there isn't access to everything that you want, and you're paying for this service to Microsoft and Sony in order to access that content. And even like on Steam too, there's a limited lifespan for certain games as well that you can't even access anymore through those portals. So yeah, I've like I said, I'm a fan of folks acquiring and experiencing media the best way they can. So as long as like they are doing it for themselves and not profiting off of other like methods that they are acquiring this media, then it's totally fair. It's fair game in my opinion.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that that's definitely something that has plagued like the overall gaming landscape, right? Because I think that when you look at just how things have been shaping out, each one of these platform holders seem to be struggling with their own kind of like problems, and they're not necessarily like that overlap isn't going over all of the studios, right, or all of the companies, right? So whereas Microsoft may have been having issues in certain areas in terms of like with what you speak, Sony on the other hand, um, they've been canceling a lot of games lately. Like it's been like 8 or 9, 10 games canceled recently, and also them kind of like launching Concord and then killing those servers off immediately after the game came out. and things like that. It's just there's a lot of room for growth as a whole, and I think that when you look at whether it be Sony kind of bringing their games to PC and other platforms, and they've been kind of doubling and tripling down of their stance on that and saying that more games are going to be coming day and date to PC. And as Microsoft has kind of branched out, and they've even had to kind of start because they've become so big of a publisher, they're even having to put a lot of their games on other platforms now as well, even though they were the first ones that were doing that day and date with PC thing. So I think that just when you look at the overall landscape of gaming, I think that like it's very much so changing. And all three of these companies are kind of dealing with things, or four, because Steam is pretty much its own like platform now as well, and they're launching consoles like the Steam Deck and things like that. So yeah, they're 2 feet in, right? And so yeah, it's just there's a lot of room for growth, but I also think that just as a whole, the gaming landscape is going to look very differently than it did for us growing up. Because for me personally, the thought that because even I've heard people saying, "Oh, the Xbox games are going to be going to PlayStation and they're going third party." I'm like, I've been playing MLB The Show on Xbox Game Pass for like 3 years, and that every time I boot it up, it says PlayStation Studios like on my Xbox, and I'm like, yo, like you literally had a PlayStation Studios game going into Game Pass, while PlayStation players had to pay $70 for it. I'm like, the whole landscape is just crazy. I would have never imagined anything like this happening when I was growing up. But yeah, times are definitely changing. And it seems to be us kind of heading more towards now this platform agnostic kind of approach where you can just, hey, like, hey, if I want to have an Xbox and I can play these games over here, you don't have to necessarily have an Xbox to play a lot of these games, which would have previously been walled off for exclusivity reasons. So yeah, gaming is the whole landscape has definitely been shifting. Red, it's crazy just kind of looking back on everything versus 20 years ago.
Yeah, and like 20 years ago, like that was we were still in the 2000s, and like yeah, so
Crazy. That was just
that's the
'04. That
yeah.
was like right before the 360. Yeah, that was right before the 360 came out.
No, totally. Like, we grew up in like, the console wars era, and
Oh yeah,
there would be like, some, hit or misses as far as like, oh, well, like I think 360 definitely won the generation between PS3 and yeah, like you said, Nintendo with the Wii, like they were on their own planet.
yeah,
Like we're not going to compare the Wii
yeah.
to those, but like
And the
yeah, the
Wii outsold
360
them all,
definitely
right? If I'm not
right.
mistaken, I think it
Yeah.
outsold them all, right? And
No, it
yeah,
did.
and so it kind of goes back and forth. Um, Even though I think that Microsoft stumbled with how they announced the Xbox One. What's really funny to me is, and I have had this conversation, a lot of the things, like almost all of the things that they put out in that announcement ended up kind of becoming the norm, like for
Yeah.
both platforms. Like everybody got mad when they were saying, "Oh, TV, TV, TV," but it's like all you guys watch Netflix on these things now. Everybody watches YouTube on their Xboxes now. Like these things are media in your PlayStations as well. So they were definitely a bit early, but yeah, it's like each of these companies have had tremendous impact on gaming in positive ways, and I would really like to see all three companies continue to do what they do, because when we have competition is when these things are best served. So
No, totally. And like to your point, yeah, when it comes to competition, I do think that it's kind of thinning out because Microsoft, everyone is kind of on the same page. We're like, yeah, they don't want to be a console publisher anymore. They're making more bank on acquiring studios and hosting the those exclusive games on there, or like not even exclusive, but like owning those IPs and then licensing them to be played, like you said, on Sony consoles and on Steam. So that's where I think Microsoft is going to push its, focus on the most, in my
They're gonna
opinion.
keep making consoles. They're gonna keep
You
making
think so?
consoles.
Why?
I,
Like, what
I'm
is your
absolutely
thought on that?
positive. I'm absolutely positive. I'm absolutely positive. Absolutely. I think that what has happened is that when they had the Activision Blizzard acquired, right, when they acquired them, right, with the EU, with that whole case, a lot of what that was predicated on was the EU kind of pressing them into not walling off these games, especially Call of Duty. If you watch that case, which I did, it was actually pretty strange, like how the FCC um, was kind of even arguing on behalf of like Sony against the individual customer. And so Xbox was already in a position where they were going to keep making consoles then. And they have absolutely said, hey, the console space is vital to their business. I also think that if you're going to continue with Game Pass, you need a vehicle for that is going to absolutely be yours, right? So I don't see Sony allowing Game Pass on their platform in the near future, right? Even though they might be getting some of these games, I highly doubt that they're going to have Game Pass on there. So if you're not able to have Game Pass on PlayStation, and if Nintendo is not really in a space where they're even making the type of hardware that can really compete with a Sony, then the only way for you to be able to do it is with your own stuff, right? And it's been rumored that their next machine is going to be powered by like for AI as well. And yeah, no, it's like, yeah, I definitely do think that there's going to be at least two more console generations coming from Xbox. One being its next round with their big machine and some kind of handheld on the go type thing that's been heavily rumored and almost all but confirmed at this point, and probably at least one more generation after that, um, before we see them any kind of like trying to back out of the console space.
No, you made a really, really good point there with Game Pass. And one thing that was always lingering in my mind too was like, if Microsoft buys Steam, like, they won. Like, even if they don't, like to your point, like, yeah, making consoles to house that proprietary Game Pass, because Sony and Nintendo can't really support or refuse to, or are unable to
Yeah,
host that
Game
service.
Pass is going to Nintendo, but it's not. But their machine is not going to be able to compete
Yeah.
with the possible future PlayStations and the PlayStation 5 and stuff like that. Like it's just not the same thing.
Right.
So
No,
yeah,
totally. And like I do agree with you. I guess like what I was saying is with Microsoft, I feel like they can just endlessly bankroll any type of acquisition. So that's why I
that's
was
absolutely
thinking
true.
like, yeah, like do you think that they would be able to purchase Steam?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, no, that's what I was
yes,
thinking too. Why hasn't it
absolutely.
happened yet? What do you
No,
think?
no. I think that there's certain things that they've had their eye on a few of these major acquisitions. I think that they were looking at Take Two at some point, and possibly like owning Grand Theft Auto. That would be crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, there are several different ways in which that they could go about this, but Steam is about to have Xbox Game Pass. No, they just announced some kind of crossover thing with Xbox Game. Oh yeah, it's rumored that the next Xbox might even be able to have Steam on it. That's what it was, right?
Wow.
And that their next console, yeah. See, Red, you got to come over to some of these Microsoft circles and you can get some of the real intel. You know what I'm saying? But no,
Ah,
it's
yeah.
been it's
I'm missing
been
out.
it's been rumored that it's going to be some kind of console PC hybrid with the possibility of being able to have your Steam library play on it as well, which would be insane if you could play your Steam library on your console, right? That would be pretty crazy. But yeah, no, there's like I'm like 99.9% sure that we're going to see two more console generations at least.
No, I feel that. And yeah, I was a little skeptical because as I'm not like super tuned into like the console sales aspect, but yeah, like PS4 and PS5, they're outside of the Nintendo console,
Yeah.
like they're kind of scaling higher than the Xbox
Yeah.
sales, right?
Absolutely. But here's the problem with that, right? Microsoft stopped announcing sales a long time ago, and like people have been going off of that old number for like this whole time. And Game Pass has been, see, and that's the thing too. We have to kind of get our minds off of Xbox being the main thing. Game Pass is their main thing. That is their main platform, and everything else kind of branches off from that. So they're more than likely just looking at Game Pass subscriptions. But even in terms of like sales of consoles, in North America and the US especially, it's always neck and neck. It's always been that way. It's just that worldwide, it's not close. Like in Japan and in Europe, the PlayStation has been so much more dominant. So it's mostly been like those regions, but in the US, it's always been neck and neck. Like it's always, been right there. Even with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, the PlayStation 4 did not outsell the Xbox One like that in the US. It was just overseas. It's like just so not even close, right? And so it definitely is something that it's just these conversations are changing. Like I'm a dinosaur now, like you know
No, hard, not that, never
right,
that.
no, it's true. It's like the way that like I was looking at, like, yo, I can't, like, once they bought Activision, it's like all bets were off because now you're the biggest publisher, and you do have to think about, walling this stuff off. And does that, like, one, what does that do for your bottom line? And also, what does that do for gaming, right? If everybody is forced to, like, let's say they bought Activision and Call of Duty is now an Xbox exclusive. Well, you're not going to force everybody to go buy Xboxes, right? All you're really going to do is, I mean, you're going to sell more consoles, but you're also going to end up pissing off a whole lot of the fan base, right? That has their entire library of these things over on PlayStation and so on and so forth. So it was in their best interest to keep a lot of this stuff multi-platform. I was just under the kind of mindset of like, well, the OG Xbox stuff should be exclusive, right? Because that's what's really core to my heart. But even as I've kind of sat back and I've thought about it, it's like I definitely see the writing on the wall. And I've always said, you know if some of these games start migrating over to the PlayStation, I don't mind. But just, hey, can we get some love shown our way? Because as a Microsoft fan, there's certain things that happen in gaming that just really, really upsets me. Sony kind of paying third parties to not let games go on Xbox until much later kind of upsets me. And also, this is something that's not really talked about, but a lot of times they have parity clauses in these games. So a game cannot look better on the Xbox than it does on the PlayStation, which for me is frustrating because if I buy an Xbox and my box is more powerful than this other box, why can't I get everything out of my box that I paid for? Like, if it's in there, there should be no other company that just decides like, hey, well, I don't want, this thing looking better on the competition. So, yeah, it needs to be even. And so just things like that. I feel like the landscape is changing, and we're probably going to see a lot of these things kind of changing and shifting over these next few years.
Oh man, yeah. I didn't even realize that
I'm
there
sorry if
was
I
a
just went on a
cross.
rant.
No, no, you're cluing me in on a lot of different stuff on like, the larger sphere of gaming. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like I grew up as, a Sony kid and I never really participated
Oh,
in
I did
console
too.
wars. Yeah, like,
Hmm.
and
I,
always
I
felt
I
like,
had them all.
yeah, and like I always pictured, okay, so um PlayStation is kind of like the Nike of of like the console space, and then maybe Xbox would be maybe the Adidas, like I don't know.
Adidas or Reebok or something, right? Yeah,
Right, still comfortable, worthwhile shoes, but like if you had a choice, like if you're like, yeah, you would probably go with like
yeah,
some Nikes. But yeah, to your point, like it's all about just like what is accessible to the consumer, and if there is an opportunity to present Game Pass on the most or like the most accessible platform, and have access to Steam library, like you mentioned, and also AI to customize ones in like your own personal
yeah,
experience to the game and to the
yeah.
community. Like there's so much more opportunities that like Microsoft are open to, where it feels like Sony is kind of dipping their toe and sharing their IPs on different platforms, but they're very much closed-minded and they're very much just
Yeah,
like
they're
trying to
old
protect their
school,
brand.
and
Yeah.
they are very very old school, and I do not fault them for that. Yeah, I've had all of the PlayStations, I had all the Xboxes, like I literally had them all. So I'm not the hey I just love Xbox and that's what I grew. No, like all of these people have had some tremendous impacts on gaming. Microsoft was the first console that had a hard drive in it. People like, you know, let's talk about it, right? Like Xbox Live changed the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Halo 2 first came online, and it's funny because that was pretty much like the first big online console game. And you definitely could feel a shift because I went from having the LAN parties and all that, and like, man, I had this is a true story. I had a LAN party that my teacher came to. My teacher came to my house, Rhea, with the homies, and we had this set up with the TVs, and was going all night.
Yeah.
My teacher came to my
Dang.
house.
LAN parties. Man, I
LAN
haven't heard that
party
term in a
at the
while.
house. Yeah, and no, but honestly, Xbox Live kind of ended that. Like Halo 2, when you're able to have that LAN party experience at the house, and hey, it kind of sucks, but it also revolutionized everything, right? And yeah, they were the first ones that you could like download your CDs into the console. I remember playing Grand Theft Auto, and you could listen to your actual CDs
Yes.
on Grand Theft Auto if you had it on Xbox, right? Like,
Mhm.
let's not get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've had a lot of great innovations and things like that in the console space. It's just that I really do think that is that Xbox One announcement, it really rubbed people the wrong way. And it's just crazy because if you look back, a lot of that stuff isn't like, PSN just went down recently for like a day, and people couldn't play their games. And I'm like, I thought it was only Microsoft that was saying, it gotta be always on. Like, I'm trying to tell you guys, like, that is what was gonna happen. It's like, no TV, but everybody's watching Netflix and stuff on their consoles now. And I'm just sitting back like, you know. Hey,
Dang.
it's great
No,
though.
no, it's I mean, I'm not even gonna lie, like I was always mindful of like, even though I wasn't like an early adopter of PS3, PS4, and I don't have a PS5 currently, just like,
Mhm.
it's just my choice. I can literally go and buy a PS5 Pro, all the games, all the
Mhm.
controllers I want. I just have not done it yet because I need to justify that purchase like with being able to actually enjoy and sit down and play it. But my point is that um you're helping me sort of like opened my mind a little bit more to Microsoft, because I always was a little like hesitant, because I always felt like Microsoft was for like multiplayer shooter games, and I wasn't
Hmm.
really big into that. And I love, like, the more like story driven RPG games. And I know
Yeah,
Microsoft does have those, but it's more just like the Western versions. Like a lot of like Japanese developed games, they are cross platform, but a lot of the ones that I
absolutely.
tend to follow the most, they tend to lean more towards like Sony and
They
Nintendo,
were
just because
lacking
that's where
in that for a while.
yeah,
Absolutely.
the core fan base is on those
Absolutely.
two other consoles. So that was the only reason why I never really got into
Yeah.
that sphere. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're
We're gonna
you're
bring you over
opening.
there because recently, Rhea, they've been getting a lot of love from from the Japanese developers. A couple years ago, Phil Spencer kind of went over to Japan, and like ever since then, they've been getting like a lot of stuff over there. So now we're gonna get you right, Rhea. I promise. I promise, man.
I mean, if it's got like, the remote, well, like you're saying that there's rumors that they'll be developing their own console, handheld console. If not,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I just hope that they acquire Steam, so that way I can just like, Steam Deck it up and like, have
Yep.
that experience.
I'm telling you, yo, they might not even need to acquire them if they just get that Steam library over on their next console, like that option. That might be a game changer because and then you'll have even PC players that might pick one up just to be able to have Game Pass because Game Pass is the I will never let my Game Pass lapse. That is the single greatest subscription service ever, better than Netflix. Like Game Pass and Netflix, I will never give them up, and I'll let my Netflix go before I let my Game Pass though. That's 100% true, right?
No, the
But
value is amazing, right? Like how much is it per month? Like it's pretty cheap, right?
yeah, I think it's like $18 a month now. But
What?
I'm gonna be honest. Like for the man, like I
That's insane.
I would pay so much more for this service. You guys have no clue. Like I would pay so much more. I mean, don't tell Microsoft that. But just honestly, like bang for your buck. No, and that's the thing with them acquiring these studios. Now a game is dropping like every couple months. It's like some other first party thing and it drops right into the service. I always say that would be like Sony dropping their Spider-Man games and God of War and The Last of Us and all that stuff into PlayStation Plus,
Which
right?
they'll never do, or like we
Which
can't
they'll
we can't
never
really
do.
imagine. Yeah, we can't imagine them doing it anytime soon. Yeah.
No, no, and I actually figured this out. It's because Sony is always been a hardware company. Like their thing is selling you that box, right? Like they used to make Walkman and TVs and Blu-ray players. They sell hardware, right? So much of their just whole company is based around selling you a physical product, whereas Microsoft has always been a software company. So that's why they were able to kind of make this transition into okay, well, Game Pass is our main thing, and what does that look like? So we're gonna need a box, and we're gonna need to put it on as many different screens as we can outside of that box, right?
No, you're making perfect sense. And yeah, like I was saying, accessibility of Game Pass is all that's, really going to, matter. And having that proprietary platform that's always going
Yeah,
to be a dependable, reliable way to access these games. Like, especially if there is just, Steam licensing, which I
yeah,
agree with you, that's actually better than acquisition. Yeah,
yeah,
that's going to encourage more hardware sales. So
yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with you now that you kind of
I
put it
can
in
play Game
perspective.
Pass on my phone, Rhea. Like I can
Yeah, I
literally
was literally
plug
saying
a
that, like, oh,
controller
like,
up to my
yeah,
phone and play my games, and
yeah,
then literally like go from my save game on my phone to the TV, and it's the
mhm.
same thing. And man, quick resume. Don't even get me started, man. Don't even get me
Oh, quick
started. Like,
resume,
don't
yeah,
even get me started, man. It's like
yeah.
they be like, oh my god, but PlayStation got the quick launch. I'm like, shut up. Like it's not. It's nowhere near the
Not the
same thing.
same, no.
Have 8 games suspended in the same places where you left them. Like it's crazy.
Yes. No,
You know?
dude, that's the best. I love quick saves too. Yeah, no, it's definitely got my mind, jogging, definitely. It's
See,
yeah.
we gonna slowly bring Red into the light, right?
No, I mean, I have the ability to, to bankroll these hobbies. It's just like I try to be very strategic, okay, in like what do I have bandwidth and time to pay attention to. But I've been neglecting the whole like, other side of games for sure because I was always focused on like just the most convenient mobile way to play games and just something that I can pick up and play. So I completely didn't even look into the possibilities that were out there for the other consoles.
Oh yeah. Nah, that little handheld hybrid thing definitely seems like it's a reality that's probably gonna be getting announced sometime later this year. Before we move on from the video game conversation though, what's your thoughts on the Switch 2? And are you excited for it? Like what's going
Yeah.
on with that?
Yeah, so the Switch was actually my first day one console that I purchased myself, and it was just it was very meaningful for me to just follow this console through each generation or each iteration. So I got the original launch Switch in I think it was April 2017, and then the OLED came out I think either in 2020 or 2021. I forget. It was
Mhm.
during the pandemic, and then yeah, it had the OLED screen, and
I think it was
yeah.
2021, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. And yeah, the Switch 2 definitely something that I'm interested in. So I totally get that, there's, I could play the same games on my current Switches, but there is also going to be games that are optimized for that new hardware. So there is a reason
Yeah.
to pick it up. So yeah.
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 See, hey, we see, Red. You have no idea. You are also selling the Xbox right now. I just want you to
No, dude. Okay,
know
so like
because they
I
automatically upgrade. Because
mhm.
like with the Sony, whenever they have like the more features, you have to pay for them. Whereas like on Xbox, you just download the game and it plays whatever the best version of that game is.
See, this is all newish information for me. Yeah, like I don't want to say I've been living under a rock because I'm so into like, the retrosphere and like game preservation and all this stuff. Like
You've
I'm
been in
really
your
into
own
that.
coral reef. That's what it
Yes.
has. Your
Yeah, I've
own
just been
little
chilling.
ecosystem, right? It's your own
Yeah.
little ecosystem, right? And it's just a coral reef, and y'all been living over there and thriving, right?
Yes, but yeah, there's a whole like grander ocean of world out there that you're, making me realize that I need to pay attention to.
Man, I am suddenly thinking about finding Nemo right now, right? Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Yes, I'm Dory. I think like a lot of people would agree. I'm definitely Dory.
Oh my god, yo. We are going to start wrapping up this conversation, but I did want to kind of touch on this before we got out of here. There was unfortunately some sad news today. We did hear about the passing of one Gene Hackman, and before we get out of here, Ray, I just want to hear what's your favorite Gene Hackman movie performance or whatever. Just and can you talk about if he had any impact on you or his films at all?
I'll be honest, I am not 100% fluent in his body of work. I'm sure I've seen him in films that I've watched either as like, an antagonist or a supporting character actor, but yeah, I know that he was very prolific and a lot of people respected his body of work. He was always a part of the conversation as far as even like current film and having his performances with modern actors compared to his own. So he was definitely a big influence in the film space as far as I know. And yeah, I definitely want to check out his backlog and learn more about him and, some of the things that made him a great actor in his own right.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Gene Hackman's career, from everything from like him being Lex Luthor in the Superman movies, or like my personal favorite film that he's in is Enemy of the State. Fantastic movie starring Will Smith and him, and he plays like an older mentor, kind of off the grid ex CIA character that was super dope. Crimson Tide. He's just been in so many great movies, and he always brought a lot of power and intensity to his roles. Or that's what I really remember him most for. Unforgiven. He's been in a lot of films, a lot of classic movies over these past decades, and I just wanted to say, rest in peace to him, his wife, and his dog. They all unfortunately passed away this morning, and I just wanted to touch on that before we got out of here.
Yeah.
Right, but Rhea, as we get out of here, first of all, thank you so much for pulling up. This has been a wonderful conversation, right?
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so glad you're able to come on. What are your final thoughts, like as we kind of get on out of here? And if after you give your final thoughts, you want to let the people know what you got coming up, and can we expect any glimmer cast soon? Like, what's going on, Rhea? Like, final thoughts. What you got coming up, and is the glimmer cast coming back?
Yeah, I just want to say that I've definitely been more cognizant of a lot of the relationships that I have been fortunate enough to foster over the last 5 years, and I've really become more aware of how meaningful those are to me, and how y'all came into my life during a very dark time, where I didn't have anything else other than the camaraderie and excitement I had to tune into your shows and feel like I belonged somewhere. That's like, I don't think words can describe how special y'all are to me. So yeah, sappiness aside, I have ongoing project where it's called Have You Met? And we interview different creators, and oftentimes highlight different platforms, whether it be like video games or music or movie talk. And I am a strong like proponent to have you back on the platform that we host that show on, because I don't like this idea of a community that I love so much and that I've that has given me so much, not being reconnected, and or like connected like they once were when I first was introduced to them. So I think you're a really big part in one of the biggest supporters of allowing me to come on your platform and have a shared platform with other creators to, and the support and and open arms and all that stuff. Y'all are the reason why, like I even explored even coming on camera to talk to y'all directly, because I wanted to know who y'all are as people. And y'all are just like so inspiring, like certainly you, Sky, and like how you just stand on your values, and you don't fold even under pressure. And I think that that's admirable, and it does encourage me to get myself back out there at some point to be able to create content. I want to be my best self. I want to be able to stand up and present my point of view and content in a way that I can be proud of, that I feel is worthy enough for y'all to watch. So a lot of that is the internal stuff that I'm working on my end. And I, in the meantime, collaborating with folks on their platforms and trying to offer whatever value I can to their show. That's what is keeping me afloat currently, and just sort of like keeping my wheels turning, as far as like if I were to ever come back with like a glimmer cast or streams of any kind. I want to come back like harder and stronger than ever, because everyone else has been just skyrocketing over the last few years, and it's very inspiring.
Man, that is so dope to hear. First of all, you get me all emotional, Red. That's not what we trying to do on this
I
stream. Yeah, I
know,
mean, I'm over here like,
sorry.
man, nah. It has been quite the journey, and I just appreciate you for always being genuine, and for literally like coming to my defense at two times where you didn't have to, you didn't owe me anything. I did not expect to like hear from you in either one of those aspects, but I want you to know that they had a profound impact on me both times, and I'm glad that I actually had you on here to be able to tell you that, because they were very impactful, very impactful.
No, you're impactful. You're just, one of like the highlights of, someone that has been so consistent in my life and community, and just like watching your content, expand and grow. And like what you do is not easy on any level, so I just wanted to again to commend you for that, and thank you for making the time to have me on your show.
Oh my God, man. Look, I'm about to get all emotional. Let me get on out here.
uh,
Rhea, where can the people find you at? Let them know.
Yeah, so the platform that I spend a lot of time on is X. So you can follow me at Glimmering Harpy, and then my channel, my primary channel, where I have episodes of the Glimmercast and some of my past streams, at Glimmering Harpy on YouTube, X, and TikTok. Yeah, I have a lot of like legacy content, especially shorts. I was loving doing shorts too. Those are, kind of cringy but entertaining. So, go and like comment, that's great. So yeah, you can check out all my stuff there.
Yes, yes, we definitely gonna be checking out Rhea's content. Y'all get on over there right now. Check out the Glimmercast, right?
Yep.
Watch those streams; they're always very fun, and Rhea does a great job of being entertaining while still being informative and giving her perspective at the same time. So we appreciate you, and we just want to make sure that we had the opportunity to highlight you and what you do because you've been a very valued community member, 100%.
Of course, and you as well. And yeah, thank you again.
All right, we're gonna get on out of here. Y'all catch us next time. Make sure to smash that like button, hit the YouTube. Oh no, hit the notification bell for the YouTube algorithm as well.
Yes.
And be sure to subscribe to Rhea, the Glimmering Harpy, and the Glimmer Cast, yo. 1000%. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.
Later.